the Vegas Stats and Information Network. It helps to be connected, and nobody knows more of the bookies in Las Vegas than Brent Musburger. It's My Guys in the Desert with the legend of the guys behind the counter, broadcasting only on the Vegas Stats and Information Network at vsin.com and SiriusXM Channel 204. Live from the VSIN studios, it's the one and only Brent Musburger.
Welcome everybody to the South Point and the VSIN studio. I know what time of year it is. I'm walking around the South Point, seeing a lot of Wrangler jeans, a lot of cowboy hats, and listening to cowboy music. That means the rodeo is coming to town. It's week 10 of the National Football League. Tomorrow night, Amal and Vinny, we've got a Thursday nighter, and it's probably the best Thursday nighter we have had since the Rams went at it, that game a few weeks ago back over in the Los Angeles Coliseum. And we welcome in John Murray from the Westgate Superbook. How are you, Big John?
Brent, I'm doing good. Excited to talk about Week 10 with you guys. So it's finally Week 10. We only have 8 weeks to go.
Exactly. Now, big sighting of Le'Veon Bell in Pittsburgh today. You bet. He was playing ball, only it wasn't football. He was playing pickup basketball in a gym. Now, he's got a deadline. He's got a deadline next week. He's got to come in and sign, or he's going to be out $17.5 million. Now, Amal, you're a much better mathematician than I am. If you give up $17.5 million and he goes on the free agent market, what does he reasonably have to sign for, say, let's say, 3 years, to even sniff at getting the $17.5 million back?
Brent, that's why this was a huge mistake in terms of what he did. Let's just say, hypothetically, he can get $15 million in the open market. Todd Gurley got 4 for $60. So if he can be in a comparable number, he's basically got to get $20 million a year, which nobody's going to give him. They're not going to give him quarterback pay. I just thought this was a mistake. And I understand the argument of injury, but to me, he should have taken the full $14 million he could have gotten this year and then come back, because now the problem is, if he gets a 4-year deal from somebody, it would have to equate to about $75 million on 4 years to what he could have gotten on a 4 year.
Think about that.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Let's think about this. Now, he has a deadline next week by 4 o'clock, November 13th, for those of you who want to keep score on this, okay? And if he signs the tag by then, he will get roughly $5.9 million, okay? That's what he's surrendered out of the $14.55 million that he was guaranteed on the tag. Regardless, John, he will not be suiting up for the Steelers tomorrow night to play against the Carolina Panthers. This is a terrific football team. We're talking a couple of playoff-bound teams perhaps here. The Panthers, of course, with still work to do, as have the Steelers. But what do we have in the Westgate Super Contest? The Thursday nighter, Panthers and the Steelers.
I'm going to use the Steelers as a 4-point favorite here at home against Carolina. And, Brent, if you saw Le'Veon Bell's farewell to Miami tweet, you got to question his judgment all around. I'm not sure if you saw that one. He spelled farewell, F-A-I-R, well.
Really?
Oh, yeah. So I'm not sure how bright this guy is. I don't know if he's done all that math that Amal just took us through.
Okay, my friend. So there we have it. And by the way, young Connor has been Vinny, the fellow who stepped in there. And great story. He's been a terrific running back for the Steelers.
James Conner, terrific story, as you mentioned, Brent. Drafted last year, has overcome cancer, a severe knee injury, a debilitating knee injury. And I think he's endeared himself to not only the fans in Pittsburgh, but certainly to his teammates. And now I will say this. If Le'Veon Bell does return, there'll be an impact. I think there'll be a lot of interest on this because he'll be fresh. There'll be more of an impact, I think, to the plus with Le'Veon Bell going to the Steelers than, let's say, Des Bryant going to the Saints. Just FYI.
Okay, now we come to Sunday and the early games, and the first game on a rotation, there's a story because the Jets' Sam Darnold has suffered a foot injury, and the very latest report is he could be sidelined until December, okay? Now, the veteran Josh McCown, a very intelligent young man, certainly if he wants to coach someday in the National Football League, he physically is not nearly as good as the youngsters in the league right now. So we do have, John, we have McCown quarterbacking the Jets. I haven't seen any story that would indicate that Josh Allen is coming back for the Bills. The Jets are the favorite. Did the McCown announcement cause any change in what you're going to put out for the contest number at the Westgate?
We used 6.5 on the Jets for this game, Brent. The market was really more 7 before the Darnold injury was announced. See it come down a little bit to 6.5. I don't think there's a huge difference between Darnold and McCown right now. We are monitoring that Josh Allen situation, though. The last I saw was that Josh Allen is questionable for Sunday's game. And even though he has struggled, I do consider him an upgrade over Nathan Peterman.
And Amal, your feeling about the 6.5 now and the McCown quarterbacking the Jets?
I actually think that McCown's a little bit of an upgrade just because of his experience. I think Darnold long-term will be a better quarterback, but I think at this point it helps them out. Here's the problem I have with the Bills. Nathan Peterman and E.J. Manuel had a tweet, and I think he's correct about this when he says this is a guy that has thrown a ton of interceptions. Brent, I have no idea how he's starting in the NFL. I mean, honestly, it's like the Buffalo Bills are literally trying to tank without telling anyone they're coming out and saying it. So for me, I would have to look at the Jets with McCown. I think that offense will be able to flourish a little bit more.
Okay. Now, another early game, the Atlanta Falcons, and they bounced off the deck to beat up an injury-riddled Washington team. And they go into Cleveland, week 2 of the Greg Williams coaching regime, interim coach of the Cleveland Browns. Contest number from the Superbook. John, what do you have on the Falcons and the Browns?
Going to use Atlanta as a 4-point favorite here on the road in Cleveland. Atlanta, very impressive win last week. But like you just mentioned, the Redskins were dealing with a lot of injuries in that game, Brent.
Yeah, so we've got a home dog here, Vinny, and in Cleveland, they got a good defense.
They do, Brent. But this is a game where the Falcons are desperately trying to get back into the race, right? I mean, and as John indicated, a big win last week. This is a game that they have to win if they have any chance at all of trying to get back into the race and riding the ship. But Browns second week under the new regime, so I think this will be a matchup that both sides get played.
All right, the New Orleans Saints, and most people who keep percentages on playoff teams would have the Saints in the 90 percentile to make the playoffs. Big win over the Rams. On the road, this could be a tricky spot. This is a rested Bengal team. I know they're going to be without Green at wide receiver, but they still got some weapons. What did you do with the Super Contest? Saints traveling to Cincinnati.
New Orleans a 5.5-point favorite on the road in Cincinnati. This looks like a game that sets up to be a sharp versus square type game, so to speak. You know, the public is going to be all over New Orleans as a road favorite after that big win on Sunday. I do think we'll see some wise guys take the Bengals, although they are down several playmakers, most notably A.J. Green.
Amal, your feeling about this one?
Well, listen, I think A.J. Green is a top 5, top 7 receiver in this league, and I think he makes the guys around him like Tyler Boyd better when he's out there. This is a tough spot. I'm still not convinced that the Saints' defense is that good. If A.J. Green were here and looking at this number, I'd be all over Cincinnati, but I think I'm going to take a pass on this one, Brent.
All right. Now, speaking of the Redskins, and they lost 3 starters, I think all in that offensive line here in the last couple of weeks. But they go down to play the lowly Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And in that front office, I'm guessing that the Buccaneers are already speculating in the front office where they might go for their next head coach. So, Super Contest, Redskins in Tampa, John.
Tampa Bay a 3-point favorite in this game at home against the Redskins. And you just mentioned it, the Redskins' offensive line injuries, I think, have derailed any chance they had of getting to the postseason this year.
All right, so the Buccaneers, a home favorite, Vinny, by a field goal.
Brent, it's not just the home field. It's the healthier team and the team that can score a ton of points. It's certainly not going to be a defensive battle, but the Buccaneers with the more potent offense, and that's the reason for this number. All
right, a public team, the New England Patriots, on the road. They'll be facing the Titans team in Nashville. The Titans coming off big Monday night win down in Dallas. That shortens their work week. What do we have on the Patriots at the Titans?
New England is the public team, Brent, and the public's going to be all over them as a 6.5-point road favorite against the Titans. Tennessee is coming off of a very good win on Monday Night Football, though, over the Cowboys.
Yes, they are. Okay. The next one, early start. We go to Indianapolis. A couple of teams coming off a bye. One team has been very disappointing. Jacksonville has not fulfilled their promise. We're all scratching our head about this. But they're rested now. Maybe they put some things together. Indianapolis played a little bit better than most of us thought they were. However, their last 2 wins have not come against world beaters. So what do we have on the Jaguars at the Colts?
Colts a 3-point favorite at home in this game over the Jaguars, and I think this sets up to be a pretty interesting game. Jacksonville had the game in London 2 weeks ago, followed by the bye. Teams coming off the London game and then a bye have been very good against the point spread the last few years. And the Colts are playing a lot better with Andrew Luck. I like Frank Reich. I think this should be a pretty good game.
Okay, I've got my eye on the home team in the next one of the early starts. Detroit travels into Chicago to play the Bears. What do we have for a line here?
Chicago is 6.5-point favorite over the Detroit Lions. I find this line kind of interesting. The Bears are actually a bigger favorite against the Lions than Minnesota was in the same exact spot last week.
Yeah, interesting, because that was about a 4.5, Vinny, with the Vikings, right?
Yeah, it is, and I think a lot's got to do with the performance of the Lions last week, right, Brent? When you think about it, and that's what comes into play here. What's recent history is what you take into consideration when trying to anticipate the public's reaction.
Okay, we are going over with John Murray of the Westgate Superbook, the static lines. Remember, if you go up to the window to bet individual games, you may not get the lines we're talking about. These are for the contest at the Westgate and also the gold version of that contest, too. One final early start, and this is going to be a huge number. The Cardinals on the road travel to Kansas City to play the Chiefs, John.
Kansas City, a 16.5-point favorite at home. You can see why with the way Patrick Mahomes and that offense for Kansas City are humming right now, Brent. They look awesome.
So, Amal, does 16.5 intrigue you?
It does, but I'll tell you what, I've seen the Arizona offense. Not enough confidence to take them.
Okay. All right. John, run through the early starts. Obviously, the Dolphins and the Packers have been rescheduled for later in the day, so we'll get that after our commercial. But run everybody through the early numbers for the Super Contest, please.
You got it. The Steelers, a 4-point favorite in Pittsburgh. That game is tomorrow night against the Carolina Panthers. The New York Jets, with no Sam Darnold, a 6.5-point favorite at home against the Buffalo Bills. Atlanta, a 4-point favorite on the road against the Cleveland Browns. The New Orleans Saints are laying 5.5 on the road against the Cincinnati Bengals. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a 3-point home favorite against the banged-up Redskins. The New England Patriots giving 6.5 on the road against the Tennessee Titans. The Indianapolis Colts, a 3-point favorite at home against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Chicago Bears laying 6.5 at home against the Detroit Lions. And the Chiefs laying 16.5 at Arrowhead Stadium against the Arizona Cardinals.
All right, we're going to take our first break and come right back. My Guys in the Desert will be with John Murray from the Westgate Superbook. VSiN.com, Sirius XM, station 204.
It's My Guys in the Desert with Brent Musburger, only on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Keep up to date with everything in the world of sports gaming by going online at vsin.com.
If you didn't catch vsin last week, here's some of what you missed.
This is from Playboy. I think they're both. Playboy is when Tyson got knocked out by James Buster Douglas. So Playboy
Buster
got a hold
Douglas,
of
yeah.
Last year, and they had this wonderful picture of Douglas standing over top of Tyson. So they called me up. They did a story around it, and this is one of the things that I will always keep. Now, I also want to make it clear that Playgirl contacted me to be in their next centerfold issue. Also,
Is that the basketball picture?
it was a yin and a yang. Yeah, that was it. That's it. That's it. That's it.
Part of the Cooper compensation complicates any trade for a car, because if you can get a first-round pick for Amari Cooper, you certainly aren't going to settle for just a first-round pick for Derek Carr. I'm thinking that if someone offers them a first and a fourth, the conditional fourth, which could elevate based on certain conditions, kind of like the Sam Bradford trade, maybe they have to seriously consider that. Don't forget, 2016, Derek Carr.
All right, let's review them. Preston and I, 3-on-3 challenge. 1.5 game lead for Preston headed into this weekend. He had the 3-0 this past week. I'm very chalky on the left. Michigan laying 10.5 against Penn State at home. Oregon laying 10 against UCLA up in Eugene. And Alabama laying 14.5 on the road at LSU. Preston a little more creative. He's taking Baylor in the points against Oklahoma State. That's 7.5 points.
Big move for Houston. We know about what this offense really is, right? It is Deshaun Watson finding guys downfield. You lose Fuller to a torn ACL, so this was a position of need. And again, this is a move that I like. And you only swap a 4th-round pick, and then you exchange 7th-rounders. I think this is a good addition for Houston Texans, which, by the way, I had no business at the beginning of the year still being alive with this Houston Texans ticket to win the AFC South. And now they're with the Jags and their struggles. Houston Texans right back in this thing, and now they get a quality wide receiver to replace another one.
Right back in it. They're the only team over 500.
Yep.
They're 5-3. Everybody else 3-4, 3-5, 3-5.
Now back to Sin City and my guys in the desert with the legend Brent Musburger, live on the Vegas Stats and Information Network, SiriusXM Channel 204 and vsin.com.
All right, Amal, Vinny, and I, and we're speaking with John Murray over at the Westgate Superbook. These are the lines for this weekend Super Contest. And John, is the leader still picking over 80% as he has much of this year? How's he doing in terms of week to week?
I believe the leader is 36-9 through 9 weeks. That's pretty good.
36-9.
It's really a remarkable record. Seriously, that's incredible. And there's another guy right behind him. I believe the second place guy is 35-10.
Well, think about that.
Imagine being 35-10, not even having the lead.
John, what was last year's winner was over 70%.
70%,
right?
yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And I know this is week 10, but that's an incredible pace.
But by the way, Vinny, if he said Nick Saban was doing this, they'd be 41-4.
Vinny, when the Super Contest consensus does well, it's not good for us here at the Westgate, and I'm guessing it's not good for you guys at the South Point.
That's the consensus is not.
We've definitely we've seen that the last few weeks. I can tell you guys that much.
Good point. Well said.
All right, John, let's go to the later starting games. Let's start up in Green Bay. Miami goes on the road, traveling up to Green Bay to play the Packers. How many points did you hang on the Packers here?
Green Bay, a 9.5-point favorite here against the Miami Dolphins. This is one of the biggest quarterback mismatches I can remember. Aaron Rodgers against Brock Osweiler. That's about as big of a mismatch as you're going to see at the quarterback position.
You got it. Okay. Now, the other late games, the Raiders are in Oakland on Fox this weekend. And here comes Phillip Rivers and the Chargers. What are we hanging on this one?
Chargers, a 9.5-point favorite. Pretty much the only thing I can say positive for the Raiders, Brent, they do have 3 extra days to prepare for this game after the Thursday night game against the 49ers.
Thank you. All right. We move. Man, some big numbers on these late games, right? A couple of 9.5s, the Packers, Dolphins, and now the Chargers over the Raiders. Well, let's go down to the Los Angeles Coliseum. We may have another one. How about the Rams hosting the Seahawks?
You're exactly right. The Rams, a 9.5-point favorite at home against the Seattle Seahawks.
John and Vinny, that's amazing. I've gone through 3 late starting games. I can't remember 9.5s and 10s on those late starting games like that.
Well, Brent, you look, when you look at these numbers, obviously, I mean, the Packers, this number would have been higher had the Packers been, prevailed in the last couple of weeks. But obviously, 2 tough road games, right? One on the West Coast, and then they had to go back east last week. So coming home against Brock Osweiler, as John said, and the Dolphins, you'll see quite a bit of play. I think the Packers will get quite a bit of play, not only off the board, but certainly in the contest as well. You're looking at the Chargers against the Raiders. There's going to be a play against the Raiders. And then the Seahawks going down last week, I think certainly impacted this situation here. And we know the Rams can score and score a lot.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Sunday Night Football. Yes, the Cowboys and the Eagles. The boys travel up to Philadelphia. What do we have on this one?
Looking at that afternoon slate, it's going to be hard to determine what game to put on TV here on sound, those 3 games. But the Sunday night game will be easy. That'll be on TV. Philadelphia, a 6.5-point favorite at home against the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas coming off of a terrible loss on Monday night.
And Sean Lee. They lose Sean Lee.
Yeah.
Sean Lee
probably
is still
their
out.
best player.
He's going to be out.
Oh, mercy. Amal, you remember who was that? Who was the kicker for the Eagles who made the draft choice in Dallas last spring?
Oh, David Akers.
David Akers, huh?
Yes.
David Akers. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this is my favorite soundbite from an NFL draft of all time, and it seems so appropriate to bring it back. Let me just set the stage for you. The draft was in Cowboy Stadium, all right? So a lot of Cowboy fans were in attendance, and it came time for the Eagles. I believe it was a second-round draft choice, and they bring some players up. And remember, this is a bitter rivalry back through the years, and the Eagles are coming off winning a Super Bowl. Well, listen, let's give a listen here to my man David Akers making the draft choice for Philadelphia in Dallas.
Tonight, I'm representing the Philadelphia Eagles, NFC East champs, divisional champs, NFC champs, and world champs. The world champs. Hey, Dallas, the last time you were in the Super Bowl, these draft picks weren't born. Tonight, we are welcome into the Eagles
Look at Doug
family
Peterson.
with the 49th pick in the 2018 draft. The NFL would like to represent the Philadelphia Eagles, Dallas Goedert. He is the tight end from South Dakota State. Go Birds!
He didn't get that excited when he kicked the game-winning field goal.
I'm telling you, John, that's a moment I could watch over and over again. That was a classic, my friend.
David Akers really going for the eyeballs there, Brent. And he was barely over the microphone. I didn't realize he was that small of a guy. But that was awesome, though, and pretty funny. Very funny.
And so we've got the Eagles 6.5 over the Cowboys on NBC Sunday night. So let's jump to the Monday nighter. Nick Mullins has been named the 49ers starter as expected after his terrific performance against the Raiders. The Giants jet west. Giants and the 49ers, Big John.
Gem of a Monday nighter. The 49ers, a 3-point favorite at home against the New York Giants.
All right, so hang that home field 3 on them. Run back through the late starting games for us, John, what we have.
Sure. Green Bay is a 9.5-point favorite against the Miami Dolphins. The Chargers, another 9.5-point favorite on the road against the Oakland Raiders. The Rams giving 9.5 in L.A. to the Seattle Seahawks. David Akers' Philadelphia Eagles are a 6.5-point favorite at home against the Dallas Cowboys. And the 49ers are giving 3 to the Giants. That's in San Francisco on Monday night.
So, Maul, anything jump off the page at you if you were selecting for the contest?
You know, I have a bad habit with, it doesn't matter what the sport is, there's certain teams I think are better than odds makers do, and I think certain teams are worse. And I think the one team that I think is a little bit better than getting credit for are the Tennessee Titans. I like them plus 6.5 at home here. The reality to me is it's about Mariota. If he can show some consistency, I think this team is good. Henry runs the ball effectively. Defensively, Brent, this team is much better than they get credit for, and I like Mike Vrabel's aggressiveness. And I think playing against a team that he knows fairly well should be a little bit advantageous here.
How about you, Vinny?
Interesting. To that game, Brent, the only thing I would say is that I believe the Patriots are going into their bye after this game. So kind of they want to set the table. I'm not big on laying 6.5. That's a big number. The other game though that I would look at, believe it or not, the Giants intrigue me a little bit. They were off last week. Film is a great equalizer with Mullins. So this may be a spot where the Giants get some attention.
Brent, to Vinny's point, I think he's spot on. The one thing the Giants do effectively is they can, when Eli gets a little bit of time, they can throw the ball. San Francisco defensively still has some major issues.
Okay, now the one that counts, Big John, always has one for VSIN 1. And what John are you looking at? Who should I tab as one of the selections for VSIN 1?
You know, I talked to all the guys here, Brent, and some of them, they ran away when they saw me coming to ask for their opinion. But We decided to go with the Cleveland Browns +4. We had a guy that we respect a lot. He took them +1.5 when we put up our 12-day number last week on this game. And we think this game going over 3 is too much of an adjustment. Our top NFL minds here like the Browns, but we would forgive you if you didn't want to go with the Cleveland Browns. I would understand that. I know Amal said he's got a bad habit of overrating some teams. I've got a bad habit of picking the Cleveland Browns, and I've had it for about 3 years now. But I'm going to go with the Browns +4. I think the new regime with an extra week, or another week of practice, I should say. And I think that this line is too high. I don't think Atlanta has any business laying 4 points on the road.
Well, let's see. The Falcons were on the road last week, right, John? That was that game was in Washington, correct?
Yes. The Redskins a very banged up team, but absolutely, that game was in Washington. And it was a very good win, but I think this line is adjusted too much off of the impressive Atlanta win and the very poor Cleveland performance against the Chiefs. I just think this number is too much of an overreaction.
And I have a little bit of a bias against teams on back-to-back road games, to tell you the truth. So I'm all in. I can't remember ever picking the Cleveland Browns in the contest. We've made a joke out of them here on My Guys in the Desert, but I do think that the line that would cause you to pause is the 3. But giving me the outright win on a Falcon field goal victory, I like a lot. Okay, so I've got no problem. I'm not going to pick the Thursday night game, as I tanked us last week with the Raiders, who came up empty. So if the Browns are to lose a couple of key players by Friday, John, that would take me off the Browns. But if that doesn't happen, I'm all in, my friend.
That's good to hear, and I think they're going to come through for you. And you said you haven't picked the Browns ever in the contest.
I can
remember a lot of times where I've picked the Browns. I've been down this road many, many times.
Okay.
It's an adventure. It's an adventure.
I got to tell you, I'm also leaning toward Amal's pick, because the one thing I do agree with Amal, and I listened to some of our guys on VSiN today, automatically putting the Titans down, okay? Now, everybody came out of the Monday night game down on the Cowboys, but when I watched the game, I thought this Titan defense might be better than I thought they were, okay? They came up with some big, big plays, especially when they had bracketed Amari Cooper in the end zone, and they made the pick after the Cowboys had gone out ahead. And then when you miss a field goal and you're up by 7 and you give the Cowboys back the ball at home, they shut them down completely. They didn't let them sniff at a tying touchdown. I do believe we underrate the Titans a little bit, and they are home. I dislike intently ever going against Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, but I'm going to consider it. Big John, always appreciate it, my friend. Have a great week, and go Brownies.
I'm rooting for the Browns, and I'm rooting for the Titans, too. I can tell you guys right now that Vinny and I are both going to need the Titans on Sunday morning.
Absolutely.
You bookies. You want to start a new winning streak over the public. Okay. We're coming back, and we're going to talk a little hoops. We're bringing in another good friend of VSiN, Mark Mayer from Gaming Today. Back live, VSiN.com, SiriusXM 204.
It's My Guys in the Desert with Brent Musburger, only on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Keep up to date with everything in the world of sports gaming by going online at vsin.com.
If you didn't catch VSiN last week, here's some of what you missed.
Your top 5 in college better than perceived: Oklahoma, Ole Miss, interesting, Maryland, Purdue, and Louisiana Lafayette.
One of the teams that stood out for me there, though, is Ole Miss. Ole Miss is a very potent offense, and on my effective scale, they're actually averaging 44.3 points per game. The last 4 games, I believe they're 5-3 now, and their last 4 games are teams you could consider either a toss-up or games they should win. I think this is a team that could go on a run in November.
What do you guys do there to make sure that that's really what he wants? Like the Purdue buying the hook makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah, I mean, I happened to be walking through the back room right when he came up to the counter. I was talking to the guys, and I saw the bet, and I just said to myself, you know what, I'm going to go out there, I'll say hi to him and just make sure that's what he wants to do, just to cover every base. And he told me that's what he wanted to do. I probably would have done something similar if he tried to buy the half point on a pick'em game. I mean, I would just take 30 seconds to just walk out there and verify that's what the guy wants. The last thing you want is a guy making a huge bet coming back to you later saying this is not what I wanted.
So you're on a bit of a roll here calling these. What are you looking at on the schedule this week from an ATS perspective?
Houston's one of the hottest teams in the National Football League. Very explosive offense with a few extra days to prepare for this trip to Denver. Denver just traded away one of their more productive players. I don't see any reason why Houston shouldn't be favored in a game against Denver. I don't care where it's being played. I like the Texans.
I think we need to take a moment of silence. Thank you. You guys had 2 losing weekends in a row. Feel bad for you.
The books did? We actually did okay, John, because we posted the baseball futures on Sunday.
Okay.
So we won a lot on the Red Sox, so like in the bottom line, it looks okay. But the NFL didn't go well. The Patriots covered last night.
Yes, they did.
I don't know if you caught that. That was not good for the books.
16 unanswered.
A ball was caught yesterday, that's for sure.
16 unanswered points in the final 17 minutes. The Bills were covering for 54 minutes.
That was a tough one, Matt.
I'm Ron Flatter with your VC in Action update. Looking to fill a wide receiver void brought on by injuries and disappointing performances, the New Orleans Saints have signed free agent Dez Bryant. They are 5-point favorites Sunday at Cincinnati. Sam Darnold will miss the Jets' home game Sunday because of a sprained foot. Josh McCown will step in at quarterback for